everybody. We're really excited to have you this morning. Thank you for joining the rally. It's amazing to see you all here. Just watching folks come into the room now. We're already 94 strong. That's amazing. Well, again, as folks are joining us this morning, welcome, 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 everybody. And thank you again for joining today's rally for fully funding CUNY in this year's city budget. My name is Melanie Crivellis. I'm with Young Invincibles, and we are a proud member of the CUNY Rising Alliance. And we're so excited to be here with you all this morning to fight for a just recovery from COVID-19. And we all know that begins with fully funding CUNY, the largest urban public university system in the country that drives more students to the middle class than all of the Ivy League colleges combined. And after a year of unfathomable loss, all of the students who call CUNY home, its faculty and its staff, all deserve better than what the mayor is currently proposing in his final budget as mayor. So this morning, we're joined by students, faculty, and amazing advocates from across New York City to fight for a new deal for CUNY, and we're calling on the council to stand against the mayor to reverse these cuts and invest in CUNY now. So for everyone joining us today, thank you for being here. Let us know in the chat where you're calling in from. It looks like folks are already doing that, which is great. And just so you know, we're going to be dropping links throughout this rally for you to take action on social media today and put pressure on the council to fully fund CUNY now. So please keep an eye out for those links coming in the chat and join us for those actions. And for our speakers today, just a quick reminder that today's rally is short, sweet. So please keep your remarks around a minute 30. And we have Labiba in the chat who will send you a message if we're starting to run over. So again, without any further ado, it's my pleasure to move things over to our speakers. And so we're going to get things started off with Barbara Bowen, President of the Professional Staff Congress at CUNY. So Barbara, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Melanie. And thank you, everyone who's here. There are 170 people on already, more to come. Thank you, council members who will be speaking. Thank you, colleagues from CUNY, faculty, staff, and students above all. It's really great to be with you. Community partners, so important. We're here today because we were shocked. I have to say, I've looked at a lot of city budgets for a long time, but this is a city budget, executive budget, following the preliminary budget that maintains virtually all the deep cuts to CUNY that were in the preliminary budget. The mayor's preliminary budget came out before the federal stimulus money came to New York City. And the preliminary budget spoke about the uncertainty and the need to develop more if the federal stimulus money came in. Well, it did come in. And yet what we see in the executive budget, the budget that the mayor has proposed now, is a repetition of almost all of those cuts. And yet it's a budget that starts by saying it's going to be a radical, quote, radical investment in working families to drive economic growth in every neighborhood. This is a radical disinvestment in CUNY, and it will do the opposite of driving economic growth or educational justice. The mayor's executive budget initially called for $77 million in cuts to CUNY, which will hit the community colleges where many of the lowest income students attend CUNY. We have, thanks to the advocates in the council and also thanks to the mayor's office, we were able to win back 10 million of that for the ASAP program, but now there is still $67 million cut. We need, council members, we need your support to restore every one of those dollars and add, where is the radical investment? And we ask you, council members, to demand that investment, and we're demanding it with you. This is the moment. Don't let CUNY be the one institution left out. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Barbara, for your leadership and for laying out what's on the line in this year's budget. I'm going to move us right along to hear from the chair of the University Student Senate, representing students from across CUNY's 25 campuses, Giovanni Piquant. So Giovanni, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Giovanni Piquant. I serve as the chairwoman of CUNY University Student Senate and as trustee at the City University of New York. I think it's safe to say that we're here today, and it's not like we haven't been here at every start of the summer in CUNY. And I think here today we're rallying for budget justice. And when we talk about budget justice, we're talking about educational justice. As we can see, over $60 million is on the line in regards to cuts for CUNY. This is huge. And this is something that's alarming. And if you are not ready to be alarmed, now is the time to be alarmed. Now is the time to figure out who your elected officials are and your city council members and to hold them accountable. When we talk about a budget that states that there's radical investment, I think, quite frankly, it's a slap in the face to the CUNY community. We have seen what we have gone through the COVID years. We have seen what students have gone through these months. Yes, in fact, they restored ASAP, but we shouldn't be praising that they restored ASAP. This is something that should have been a given. This is something that should have been done. And when we talk about equity, we are talking about expanding opportunity for the most marginalized. The city council has a moral obligation, an ethical obligation to ensure that they invest in the country's largest urban university. And it is so important that we're here today to ensure that you all are rallied up to show that the faculty, staff, and students are united, and we will never, in fact, be defeated. And this is not a sprint, but this is indeed a marathon. And we're going to need everyone's energy throughout this summer to cry out and to fight for this equitable budget that we need to ensure that there were zero cuts to CUNY funding. And this is something that can be achieved, and this will be achieved by us. So thank you all for joining us, and we hope that we just don't only see you here today, but throughout this course of this summer where we're fighting for CUNY. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Giovanni, chair of USS. Can we just get like a quick round of applause for Giovanni in here? That was amazing. Always great to have you on. And again, thank you for joining us this morning. Moving us right along, we're going to hear from Anna Compton, who is a student at Hunter College, an amazing advocate, part of the Young Invincibles Young Advocates program. I'm going to talk to us a little bit about why it's so important to invest in CUNY, including in mental health services. So Anna, I'm going to hand things over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Melanie. And like Melanie said, I'm Anna, and I'm from Hunter College. And I'm so thankful to be here today and to be around so many students and faculty and representatives who care about our university and don't want cuts but expansions on our programs. And personally, I know how difficult it is to get counseling and mental health resources at CUNY. When I had first transferred into Hunter, the process was extremely tedious and inaccessible, and this was prior to the pandemic, and I just can't even imagine what it's like now for students who are at home all the time, who are facing all of these extra barriers and don't have access to adequate mental health services. And so cutting funding to CUNY is the last thing that the city needs, and students absolutely need more resources. They need more counselors. They need more counselors that have similar identities to them. And, you know, I personally remember how difficult it was in person. So yeah, so CUNY just needs to, the city needs to not cut any type of funding in any capacity, and expand on resources, give students more access to both on campus and off campus mental health resources, and very much more. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna. Yeah, no, we know through our work with Young Invincibles across different CUNY campuses, we know that Anna's not alone. A lot of students, you know, struggle to find a mental health counselor on campus, and that's why we need more investment in it. We've needed that before the pandemic. We're certainly going to need it as we look ahead to the next school year. So thank you again for reminding us how important these services are and why we need that investment. Again, thank you again. And moving us right along, we're going to hear from Jacqueline Ortiz, who is a Borough of Manhattan Community College student. So welcome, Jacqueline. Feel free to go ahead and unmute, and we'd love to hear from you.
Thanks, Melanie, and thanks, Dr. James, for inviting me to speak. So I re-entered the, like said, Borough of Manhattan Community College community again in the fall of 2020. And my first semester back, you know, as a non-traditional student, like coming back, it was so chaotic. I didn't receive advisement until like a day before classes started. And it was like via email based on like 4 questions that I had answered, you know, when I was like filling in my application. And it was so disorienting. And, you know, I joined community groups and things like that, trying to like figure out like how to navigate the system. And this is when I learned that, this is kind of a system-wide, a CUNY system-wide issue, that there's this huge lack of advisors and advisement, and there's reliance mostly on the individual department faculty when carrying out advisement, and which is problematic when you're entering and you're not really like in a department yet, or you don't know what your major is going to be. I think that advising is one of the most essential student support services, because it kind of, helps you navigate, especially when you're in the community college system and you're usually not a non-traditional student, not coming straight out of high school, kind of trying to figure out, what to do. And you have less time because you have a family or you have a job. And so I believe that it's something that's really, really important to have. It's just not sustainable to not have something like this in such a huge system like CUNY. I learned that there's about a 1 to 1,500 like student to advisor ratio, which is insane to me. I feel that students need to make the most efficient use of their time and their resources when they're attending school, and they need as much support as possible. And having a dedicated advisor, to help set academic goals, this certainly helped me once I was able to enter a program and have a dedicated advisor last semester. It, was so helpful in like navigating what I need to do, what credits I need, how my transfer to a senior college process is going to work out for me, and which classes can enhance that my experience to the most successful outcome, which I think is in everyone's best interest. So it's definitely necessary to restore and enhance the CUNY budget so that we can add more advisors to the system. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacqueline. And again, I'm just going to bully everyone into let's keep the rounds of applause going. I know that, we're still in the Zoom times here, but I want to see that energy because I know Jacqueline is speaking some truth today. We know that, CUNY students have a lot going on in their lives. They're, parents of their own, they're caretaking during this pandemic, and, any barriers to, getting access to advising and counseling and being able to make the right decisions about your college experience. We need more of those resources, not less. And so again, thank you, Jacqueline, for speaking about that this morning. Moving us along, I want to hand things over to Nathan Lloyd. Nathan is a student at Queensborough Community College, an organizer with NYPIRG, and an amazing student advocate. So I want to hand things over to you, Nathan. Feel free to go ahead and unmute.
Thank you, Melanie. Yes, I'm an ASAP student at QCC, member of NYPIRG. As an ASAP student, I was really concerned to learn of the cuts to the program in the mayor's budget. ASAP has played a crucial and critical role in part of my success at QCC. This amazing program supports students like me by providing one-on-one advisement and specialized workshops like preparing for job interviews and resume and cover letter writing. ASAP also helps me out with Metro cards, textbook costs, and provides tuition assistance, which means there's less fear and apprehension about being in debt and more time really concentrating and honing in on getting that associate's degree. ASAP has helped me stay on track, and I'm proud to say that I'm graduating from QCC next month, just like the program was designed to do. Putting my trust in ASAP has greatly rewarded me with the skills and knowledge I need for my future. ASAP students have better retention and graduation rates than non-ASAP students. By cutting ASAP, you're also preventing students like me and many others from achieving the success they truly want. ASAP is a great investment, and it truly delivers on its promises, and the New Deal for CUNY is about broadening that paradigm for all students. It is without a doubt that all students should have access to regular advisement, which means a lower student to advisor ratio. All students should have access to smaller classes and get in the classes they need to graduate, which means a lower student to teacher ratio. All students should have access to support services like professional workshops, mental health counseling, and help with textbooks. The New York City Council can help deliver on the promise of the New Deal for CUNY by ensuring that ASAP's funding is made whole for next year. All cuts are restored, and by committing to a final budget, which increases funding for CUNY by $60 million. The council has championed these programs in previous years. And we're counting on you to stand up to the mayor's budget cuts now. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Nathan. Again, round of applause, snaps going for you, and congratulations on graduation. We're really proud of your work, and thanks for being here again today. I'm going to move things right along over to Scott Calley, who is a Kingsborough Community College faculty member, PSC chapter chair, and is going to talk a little bit with us this morning about what's on the line for the amazing CUNY staff and faculty across the system. So Scott, over to you.
Thank you, Melanie. Good morning, and thank you all for joining us today. As you know, Kingsborough, along with every other community college in our system and nationally, have suffered a dramatic loss of enrollment as a result of our pandemic. But what none of our community colleges have lost, or what has not been diminished, is the role that community colleges play in educating the neediest and the least prepared students of New York. And our community colleges will be essential if we are ever to recover from this pandemic with any kind of equity in our system, in our society. The deep cuts that the mayor has proposed would devastate community colleges and critically damage, or perhaps permanently damage, our very ability to fulfill our mission to the people of this city. The further reduction of OTPS funds, that's other than personnel services funds, will directly, not tangentially, directly translate to fewer lab supplies for our students, fewer supplies in our arts and performance studios for our students, still more cuts to our classroom and learning support, which have already been cut, and more cuts at a time when we need it the most to recover. Continuing to reduce our workforce through attrition and continuing a hiring freeze is leaving us unable to give our students the education that they actually deserve to have. Not that what we would like to give them, because it is what we would like to give them, but it's also what they deserve. Lately, the Kingsborough administration has become concerned, rightly concerned, that offices are not answering student calls or responding to student inquiries in a timely fashion, and wondering why this might be. Well, in the last year, Kingsborough laid off over 100 part-time office and clerical staff, well, significantly more than 100. So now there's actually nobody to answer the phone, and that's why it's not happening. So, and the workload on those who remain, the advisors, the HEOs, the administrators who are remaining has skyrocketed. And this is only going to get worse if we don't get these people back as we transition back to reopen. Finally, a continued reduction in our workforce will have additional deleterious effects on our students, because it means fewer students, fewer advisors, fewer mental health counselors, fewer lab and studio technicians, and continuing the trend to increase our class sizes. The largest classes with the least prepared students, with the students who need individual attention the most, get shunted into the largest classes. And that's what will happen and continue to happen if these devastating budget cuts go through. It's both unfair and it is shameful to destroy the community colleges through these budget cuts, and they will hurt, again, the least prepared and the most needy among us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Scott, for drawing that connection, for reminding us what's on the line in terms of both faculty and student experience, and really thinking about the quality of education that we're talking about and guaranteeing to every CUNY student. Again, appreciate you being here today. And then now I would love to move things over to Remy Salas, who is our wonderful CUNY Rising Alliance director and leads our amazing coalition of organizations across the city fighting for CUNY every single day. So Remy, I would love to hand things over to you to see what you're seeing in this year's budget and what we need.
Thank you so much, everyone, and the opportunity to speak today. Well, our demands for this year's budget are quite simple. We need the mayor to believe in the people of New York. CUNY educates more than 250,000 people, primarily from low-income communities in New York City. At this moment, the mayor plans to cut over $60 million from CUNY during one of the worst pandemics in our city's history. That will immediately affect the lives of students and families that rely on CUNY to earn a college degree. We are urging you, Mayor de Blasio, to reject your proposed budget to cut that will immediately impact CUNY and everyone in New York City. Programs that help students succeed in academia, like the ASAP program, that helps uplift low-income students. Academic resources that help establish appropriate ratios of mental health counselors, as well as academic advisors to students, food programs to combat food insecurity, as well as saving and restoring thousands of jobs for staff and adjuncts, as well as a revenue support to offset the loss of enrollment because of the pandemic. Mayor de Blasio, this is your last budget. Please do not turn your back on CUNY. And please try to not stain your legacy by being the individual to turn your back. We are ready to end the austerity budget, and it's time for the city to step up and do its part to support a vision, the vision of a new deal for CUNY. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Remy, for again reminding us what we're here fighting for today. As you might have seen in the chat earlier, we do have a social media toolkit put together with our partners at NYPIRG. It's really, really easy to take action today. It'll just take a couple of minutes. You can tweet at your council members, make sure that they're standing, like Remy said, standing alongside CUNY and fighting for CUNY in this budget. We need your support, so please take a look at that toolkit and get that out. And again, thank you for our speakers so far. Y'all have done an amazing job letting us know what's on the line. And now we have some of our council members joining us in the call today to talk about what their commitment to CUNY is and how they will be fighting for CUNY in this budget. So I'm really excited to hear from some of our different council members on the line this morning with us. So first, I'm going to hand things over to Councilmember Mark Levine, Chair of the Committee on Health. And again, Councilmember Levine, we're glad that you're here, and feel free to go ahead and unmute. Councilmember Levine, are you here and able to unmute?
There he is. No, you're muted again, Mark.
We got it?
Got it.
Awesome. Oh my God. A year and a half later, I haven't figured out Zoom yet. Thank you so much, PSC CUNY. First of all, thank you to what your members have done over the past year plus. It's got to have been one of the most difficult years in the careers of many of your members. And you adapted brilliantly on the fly, often with confusing and inconsistent and incomplete support and instructions from the administration. But you managed to deliver incredible education through this year. I know this firsthand because our son Alejandro is a junior at City College. So I can tell you that despite these challenging times, he has gotten an incredible CUNY education over the past year. And I'm just so grateful to all of you for what you've done. I believe firmly that CUNY is going to be key for the post-COVID comeback of the city, that we're going to need you now more than ever as an engine of opportunity, as a driver of good policy on public health, and as a pillar of strength that we're going to need now more than ever. So the thought that there could be any cuts is absolutely unacceptable. This needs to be a time of doubling down on investment in public higher ed in New York City, doubling down on investment in staffing to reduce staffing ratios, which right now are far worse than the national average and far worse than they used to be even at CUNY, and to expand services like mental health, which the student body is going to need now more than ever. That's just not about a few weeks, that's about a years-long commitment to dealing with the trauma of this crisis. And we need capital investment as well that can make up for the aging infrastructure of this incredible public university system. So know that you have allies in the city council now. I see at least two of my incredible colleagues here, Councilmember Powers, actually three, Councilmember Powers, Councilmember Rosenthal, Councilmember Lander. I'm sure there's many more that you'll acknowledge. Forgive me if there's others I didn't see. You have strong support in the city council. We are going to fight for you. We're going to fight for CUNY, for professors, for staff, and most of all, the students in this budget. I see Vanessa Gibson's here as well. So city council strong. We support you. Let's go win for CUNY in the budget. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Councilmember Levine. We're so glad that you're here and again, fighting for CUNY this year. Again, thank you for being here this afternoon, morning, I should say. And I'll just keep us moving along since we do have so many City Council members joining us this morning. I'm going to hand things over to Councilmember Brad Lander, who's joining us. Councilmember Lander, if you'd like to go ahead and unmute.
Thank you so much. What an honor to be here with PSC, to be standing up for a new deal for CUNY. And, you know, a new deal for CUNY is a big expansion of resources and investments. It must not involve any diminishment. Look, you know, there's $200 million in the mayor's executive budget to increase the budget of the NYPD. And yet he proposes to cut CUNY by tens of millions of dollars. What could be more backward when we think about investing in our future? CUNY is the future of New York City. And as we come out of this pandemic, if we want to create good jobs, if we want to provide young people with a sense of what a more just and equal future looks like, if we want to make sure we're more ready for future crises, for the COVID crisis, for future pandemics, for future health crises, but also for the climate crisis, which we can all see coming. If we want to address our affordability crises, there is nothing more important than educating our young people, helping them to succeed in the economy, helping them become the creative leaders and entrepreneurs and folks who are leading the future of the city. All of that comes from increasing investments in advising, in supporting our students, in reducing class size. It is appalling that we've laid off adjuncts of CUNY. We need to fight back on that. It is appalling that we would even think of allowing cuts to CUNY. What we need at this moment are significant increases in the budget. If that takes cutting the NYPD, then I'm down to do it. We need resources in supporting our students. We need resources in supporting our faculty. Now is the time. New deal for CUNY. We're here with you to fight for it. Thank you, PSC.
Thank you, Councilmember Lander. And again, thank you for reminding us that, you know, as we're talking about expanding the police budget, where's our investment in, again, the driver of equity in New York City, CUNY. And so I think it's really, really important to keep in mind as we, you know, fight for the finish line here. The budget needs to be finished at the end of June. So we're going to be fighting, you know, and we hope to have you all alongside us for that fight. Moving us right along, we are also joined by Councilmember Keith Powers. So Councilmember Powers, we're so glad that you're here today. And if you could go ahead and unmute, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you to everyone for being here. You have an amazing turnout, and it was great to hear lots of people's personal stories and connections to CUNY and also the impact on funding. I am a CUNY grad. I am a grad of the grad center itself, and which is in my district, including Hunter, and just right next door to Baruch as well. And my mom would kill me if I didn't mention that she's a Hunter grad, which she's so proud of. And so I'm a CUNY family, but also I'm just a CUNY supporter, because when I was looking for somewhere to go and I was looking here right in New York City, I didn't have to look far to find a really good education, great professors, great students at a really affordable rate. And one of the things that makes it great is the investment that we make into the system here as the city to make sure that it's equitable, there's opportunity, and to make sure, of course, it's affordable. And the budget cuts that we're making right now, they're proposing right now, I'll tell you two things. One is you got a number of the people on the budget team here. I see Reynoso, Vanessa, I see Helen. And I got to say, when those cuts come up in the budget team, Vanessa and Tony, all those people are very loud about making sure that we push back on them. So I want to know you have a really good team on here of elected officials that speak up. And I'm telling you that, I'm attesting to that. They speak up when those cuts come in. So know that we are going to speak up and use our voices in our advocacy this year to make sure that we undo those cuts. So I want to make that comment. We are going to fight against those, number one. But number two is we have to think big ticket about CUNY, and we not just to think about stopping the cuts that are here right now, but making a very big investment in our higher education system here in New York City. The CUNY New Deal, the other revenue streams that we can think about here are ways to do that. So this is like step one of a process in my mind, which is to really reaffirm and uphold our public education system in New York City. So we got a lot of work to do in the next few weeks. We are ready to stand with everyone here to do that. Thank you guys for your work in Albany and New York City to support public education. And I hope to see you at the finish line with some very good news to hopefully uphold our commitment to CUNY. So thanks, everyone.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you again, Councilmember Powers, for your work and your continued advocacy for CUNY community. And again, Shout out to a couple of CUNY grads in the family. We'd love to see it. And now I would love to move things over to Councilmember Vanessa Gibson, coming in from the Bronx. So Councilmember, over to you.
Thank you, Melanie, and good morning, everyone. Good morning, PSC CUNY, to my fellow CUNY family, my colleagues in government. It's really great to see all of you. Good to see you, Sister Barbara Bowen, and everyone here at PSC CUNY. I am honored to join with all of you at your rally today. It's very important that we're all joining together. So I will also plug in that I am a CUNY graduate myself from Baruch College. I got my master's in public administration there way back in 2009. And I am proud to say I'm only the second graduate of the School of Public Affairs that ran successfully for office behind our former speaker, Melissa Mark Viverito. And I am so proud to say that I would not be where I am today without CUNY. And I love the public higher institutions. I'm also a SUNY grad. So some people call me a twofer since I went to SUNY and CUNY, but I got all of my education remaining here in New York State. And so like all of you, I understand the value as well as the significance of what we're talking about today. And the City Council, we are no strangers to fighting the good fight, to being in the trenches with all of you at rallies and making sure that we elevate the voices of our students. We did it last year when the mayor proposed almost $34 million to the $86 million CUNY ASAP program. And I remember those conversations, and I certainly want to recognize all the members on the budget negotiating team, Councilmember Powers, Councilmember Ayala, but I have to recognize a champion in Councilmember Helen Rosenthal. We would not allow any cuts in last year's budget, despite a horrendous budget that we had to pass with, a lot of cuts in other programs. We could not allow CUNY ASAP to be cut. And as all of you have said, it provides so much support services for our students and academic support. And really, it provides a lifeline for our students. They have endured a lot. We all have endured a lot over the last year. And I'm reminded that many of our students are rent burdened. They are living in conditions that are not good and quality. They are struggling. Many of them are parents themselves. They're working full time. They're trying to balance the demands of life with their school. And so programs like CUNY ASAP give them that support. It gives them the ability to know that they can be successful in spite of all the challenges, and their circumstance does not have to determine their future. So we are proud of the work that all of you have done, our faculty and Student Government Association, on all of our leaders. Thank you. We do have a lot of work to do. And in this executive budget, while there are proposed cuts, you know that we don't always end where we start. And the next several weeks as we meet and we convene, we will make sure that we fight for CUNY ASAP, as well as all the other programs. I'm also proud to say on behalf of the Bronx, we have supported my family at Hostos Community College, Bronx Community College, as well as Lehman College. We made sure that we focused on workforce development, the CUNY Child Care Program. We have an early child care center on the campus of BCC that I was very proud to work with and start years ago when I was in the assembly. But all of these things are lifelines for our students and their families. And all of you know, a few years ago, Speaker Johnson joined with our Chancellor, my good friend Felix Matos Rodriguez, in incorporating a pilot food pantry services program at $1 million, because we know many of our students are also burdened with food insecurity as well. And so all of these things we talk about because they are necessities, not amenities. And we need everything and we want everything. And most importantly, our students and faculty deserve it. So I want to add my voice to everyone that has spoken to say I am proud to support a new deal for CUNY. I say CUNY rocks. As a CUNY alum, I am standing with you. I am all the way in making sure that we demand more, and the budget we pass in a few weeks is reflective as a blueprint of our values. And CUNY rocks, CUNY matters, and we're going to make sure we protect all of you and your fellow classmates, as well as the institution of CUNY. So thank you so much, Melanie, and God bless you all. CUNY rocks.
Yes. All right. Who's putting it on a shirt after this? Let's get the merch happening. Well, thank you so much, Council Member. Thank you for reminding us about your connection to CUNY, the Bronx's connection to CUNY, and how we need to keep this fight going. Not just till the end of June, but beyond. We know it's bigger than 1 year. And again, you made it so easy for me. I was going to hand things over to Councilmember Rosenthal right after this. So thank you for reminding us what a tireless champion she has been. So Councilmember Rosenthal, Chair of the Women and Gender Equity Committee in the Council, member of the Budget Negotiating Team. We're so glad that you're here today. I would love to hear from you. So feel free to go ahead and unmute.
Thank you so much. And Vanessa, yeah, I appreciate that shout out. It was you and I together, sister, that really drove the point home. The more women there are on the council, the more we're going to get for things like childcare. Yes, the childcare centers were closed this year due to the pandemic, but there has to be money in the budget to open them back up again. Students are coming back, and we need some place for those working moms to be able to keep their kids safe. And also, we need to follow the lead of the state that use stimulus money to step in for the cost of lost tuition. That's happened at the city level too. There have been reductions in tuition. People are struggling, but the implication of that lost tuition cannot land in the classroom, cannot land by having fewer faculty. So the city has to step up and use its stimulus money to cover the cost of lost tuition. Lastly, I just want to say, Melanie, you are inspirational. And the other students who spoke, Giovanni, that when you text me, that's what gets me going in those budget negotiating team meetings. It's the students, it's the faculty. To PSC President Barbara Bowen, you always inspire so many of us on the council to fight that much harder. So keep up the good work. Congratulations to all the graduates. Congratulations to everyone who's a CUNY student or faculty. You need to know that what you're doing every day will make the future of New York City better. So I really, really appreciate all of you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Rosenthal. We are so glad that you were able to join us this morning. So glad to have, again, a tireless advocate for CUNY, for women, for young parents at CUNY. It's so important to have an advocate for all of those students, and we really appreciate your work. And again, are looking forward to fighting alongside of you this budget. And moving us right along, I also see that we're joined by Councilmember Antonio Reynoso from Brooklyn. So Councilmember Reynoso, we'd love to have you unmute and hear from you directly.
Thank you, Melanie. Thank you all for being here. I'm actually going to speak on behalf of my wife, who is a graduate of Baruch College, and the value of CUNY. Look, we are supposed to be building back better, not the same. We're supposed to be building back with equity, not equally. And these are the type of programs, arguably the most important educational institution for poor Black and Brown members that were most affected by COVID is CUNY. And now we're having a conversation about cuts to it. It's absolutely backwards. It doesn't make any sense. And it speaks to the value of the administration, what they prioritize in this recovery. If we're ever going to build equity, if we're actually going to start talking about the people that need the most resources, actually getting them, we're going to have to invest in CUNY. So I am on the budget negotiating team alongside the strong sisters that have just spoken before me. We are going to fight for CUNY. But I also want to be very clear. In those budget negotiating teams, there are some people that do prioritize policing over things like this. I'm going to be very outright and forthright with all the members that are on BNT to make sure that CUNY is prioritized not to be made whole again from the cuts that they were threatened to receive before, but to be expanded. We should be doing more. more for CUNY. And that's the fight that I'm going to be taking on and looking forward to it. And thank you all so much for being here. Peace and love.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Councilmember, for joining us this morning. Yes, we know cuts, we need investment. We know what works already. CUNY students have already said in the chat, they know what works, and now it's time for us to fund it. So again, thank you for fighting alongside of us this budget year and moving ahead to other budget cycles as well. Finally, I also see, last but certainly not least, we have Councilmember Diana Ayala here, and I would love to have her go ahead and unmute. So Councilmember Ayala, if you'd like to speak.
Yeah, I mean, thank you to my colleagues who pretty much, said everything that I was going to say, but I wanted to add, my 2 cents. I don't know how many of you know, but I'm actually a CUNY graduate myself, and I would not have been able to get an education at CUNY or anywhere else without the added benefits of the childcare services. I remember, dropping out of school when I was 16 years old. And going back when I was 20 and not really having that sense of that guidance. I didn't know anyone that had gone to college. I didn't have, peers that, were studying or even talking about that. Most people that I knew were just trying to get by. They were working and struggling, as I was. And so having the added benefits of the academic support, system that CUNY really allows for students is really critical. And it allowed me an opportunity to get an education around my children's, school calendar year. And it was, life-changing. I think, Vanessa used the word lifeline. It was my lifeline. I would not be sitting here had it not been for the opportunity to go to a CUNY school. And so as a member of the BNT, I hope that you know that I am equally as committed to ensuring that restorations, a part of every conversation that we have. And that in addition to that, that we institute a policy to really ensure that we have the resources necessary to address, the mental health needs of CUNY students. This has been a very, horrific, experience for many people. My son graduated high school last year, was supposed to be his freshman year. One of the most precious experiences, right? He was so excited and looking forward to his first year in college and had to drop out because the stress of it all was just too much for him. And, he will be going back, but, he's one of, thousands, right, of students that are going through similar situations. And so I wanted to thank you all for your dedication. And I just wanted you to know that, you have support in me and that I will always stand on the side of CUNY.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much again, Councilmember Ayala. How amazing is it to hear again, time and time again, folks coming from the CUNY system and then, going on to lead in New York City and fighting for that system. And so we're so glad to have you on board. And again, can't wait to fight alongside you this session and beyond. And so again, as we're getting to a close with the rally, I just want to thank all 146 of you who are on this line. It is amazing to, be joined by all of you this morning. And, again, we really encourage you to join us on that fight. I'm going to hand things over to President Bowen one more time, but just a quick reminder before President Barbara Bowen closes us out is please join us in action today. We so appreciate you coming out. We have a social media toolkit that we'll be dropping again in the chat. We really need you to, again, help us make some noise on social media and make sure that it's not just this rally today, that we need to keep the pressure on. The budget will be finalized at the end of June. And so we've got a lot of work to do. And so we're 145 strong on this call right now. And we want to, keep that energy going, make sure that you're sharing out that toolkit, posting on social media. It really makes a huge difference, for CUNY. And so I will hand things over to you, Barbara, to close us out.
Thank you, Melanie. And what about a round of virtual applause for our fabulous MC, Melanie Crivellis? Fabulous job. So a lot harder to do this virtually than in the room. And I wish we could all see each other. It's fantastic. You've all stayed on throughout this call with so many council people here, stopping in the middle of important days. Today is the budget hearing day where there will be testimony. That's why this is a critical day to intervene. I know not every council member who wanted to be here could be, so I want to just thank two in particular. I want to thank Inez Barron, who is chair of the Higher Education Committee within the City Council. I know she would be here if she could. She has been tireless in her fight and her articulation of how CUNY needs more, not less. This is a year that CUNY should be getting more. It's unfathomable to me that in this year, with billions of dollars to the city to restore the city budget, the only response of the city was cut, cut, cut. It's unfathomable, and we've got to change that. And Inez has always been a strong, standing up council member for that position. And I also want to mention Danique Miller, chair of the Labor Committee, who has stood with us. Actually, both Inez and Danique have literally stood with us in civil disobedience and been arrested with our union as we have fought for more funds for CUNY. And Danique has been such a stand-up council member, especially for the needs of laid off workers and the adjuncts at CUNY whose appointments were not renewed. And that's a dreadful thing. So I want to thank everyone who's on this call today. Thank every one of the brilliant speakers. I love hearing the voices of our students, hearing the faculty, the staff, hearing the council members who reflect on their experience at CUNY. And we saw people in the chat saying CUNY had been a lifesaver. Well, then why is New York City not saving these lives? I'm tired of hearing that these lives matter and then seeing nothing sufficient done to save these lives. CUNY saves lives. It changes lives and it saves lives. So New York City, step up. Stop this austerity repetition from the past, get out of that mode and start putting in the funding CUNY needs. This should be the year for new investment, not for disinvestment. So stop just talking about how the people in New York matter, show that they matter. The Black and brown people of New York, the working class people, the immigrants, the women of New York. This is the time to show that our lives, their lives matter, and that you do it by investing. So all of us, what can we do? All 143 people on here, send the letter that's been linked in the chat to the city council members. Call your city council member's office. There was a link there about how to call, and get out on social media, blast your hearts out on social media, make the point, make them hear it. These are the weeks right now. We have till the end of June, that's it. So we've got to make a difference on this budget. Together, we can do it. Tweet at your council members, send those letters. And I just want to end by saying thank you. There are a couple of people whose faces are not on screen who did a huge amount for today's effort and will continue to. I don't have a chance to name them all. And also I want to thank the incoming president of the PSC, James Davis, who will be carrying on this fight with Andrea Vasquez and our whole team. So this is the time, it matters, and we've got to tell New York, transform that horrible life-denying message in the budget for CUNY. Stand up, say Black Lives Matter, Brown and Black Lives Matter, our students matter, CUNY matters, and put the money in. Thank you all for being here, and let's fight till we win on this budget. Thank you, Melanie. Thank you, speakers. Thank you, everyone. We could all go out with a clap if we can unmute. Great to see you. See you on social media.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Melanie.
everyone.
Bye.